Welcome all to another week of the Cold Hard Truth on Sports. Got power back Sunday night, like 9 o'clock. So went 7 days and 1 hour without power. It's like camping at home. If you really think about it, it's like camping at home because I use basically everything that I would use to go camping with, but a tent and a sleeping bag. I use the grill, bathing out of a bucket. Yes, that means also no running water because I have a well, which is great because I don't have to pay for a water bill. But if I don't have power, it can't pump. So that's fixed. I know there's still places here in Florida that they're working to get power back. I know the outskirts of Orlando that we're struggling with some of those places. Got it back on Sunday or Monday, and here we are on Tuesday, and I've seen people from New York. I've seen trucks from out of Kansas, out of Texas, all over the country that have come down here to Florida to help get the lights back on. I just hope there's some way, and thank God that in about a week, it's restoring some sort of normalcy here in Florida. But I hope that we can do something profound like that. I don't know how the logistics work of it. For our fellow Americans, fellow U.S. citizens in the beautiful island of Puerto Rico, who is in no time here going to get cascaded by Hurricane Maria. It's not Maria. It's a Caribbean one, so it's Maria. I pronounce it right. It's barreling down on them now, and the whole island is going to take the brunt of the storm from what all the broadcasts on television say. Television here is not cooperating. Well, the television is cooperating. What isn't cooperating is a little Google device, the Google Chrome device, that is supposed to work with my phone. They're not communicating well. So it's off. No breaking news there. But on the upside, we got a great show. My co-host Kevin Crest, the author, the saint, is back. He found his way back home. How are you doing tonight, Kevin? Yeah. You. Yeah. A little north. Hmm. Well, I it was more difficult for my wife than anybody. Uh, it was more difficult for my wife. I think with this power outage, what I learned is I never want to go camping with my wife. That's what I learned from this. Because it's hot, it's sticky. Man, God, man, like it's crazy. Um, yeah, she's yeah. I don't think I'm ever gonna go camping with my wife. I don't think that'll happen. Not on purpose, unless it's something like she's like, I want to go. Yeah, I'm not gonna try to get her to go. That'd be like a guy's weekend thing, or not happen ever. Um, yeah, she doesn't like sleeping without air conditioning. So she grew up in a country that didn't have air conditioning, and those are the conditions she grew up with for 16 years of her life before she moved to the U.S. I don't know. She's forgotten. Even the year we lived a year in Puerto Rico, and we went through drought there where we only had water. Actually, had water every second or third day, depending on where the drought was at. And while we were getting this drought, we got hit by Hurricane Danny, which was a Category 1. I slept through it. It didn't do much, but Maria is a Category 5. They're saying so. I don't know what it's going to turn into. Yeah, and there's still a lot of power outage because, and that's one of the things. Like people ask me, would you live in Puerto Rico again? Would you move back if things got fixed? Things not just like infrastructural, which is terrible there, but politically, the way businesses ran, the way banking works. If it's fixed, if that's fixed, I would, I would definitely, I would be, I would love to move back to Puerto Rico and live in Puerto Rico at some point in my life. No, she's from Venezuela, but uh, no, we don't have, yeah, no family over there, but a lot of friends. Our closest friends that were there that were like family have moved to Florida because obviously because of economical situations, which a lot of Puerto Ricans have done, have really relocated to Miami, to Orlando, to New York, to Texas, throughout the United States to get in better economic situations. Um, I mean, there was times the poverty numbers are off, census aren't accurate, and the percentage of the population. When I was talking to uh, some business leaders there, they were estimating that people that were on welfare was over 50% of the population in Puerto Rico. Now, those aren't official numbers. I think official numbers are somewhere in the 30s, which is still astronomical. But um, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think that like the people that are there are, I'm almost certain are there because they couldn't afford to go anywhere. And now it's not as easy to have an exodus from Puerto Rico as it is from Florida. So um, they were already they've struggled over the last 4 years with getting supplies to the island. They're the main companies that have been um, been there to transport to port goods to and from, and it's always from Miami or Jacksonville. I remember right when we got back, one of the companies owned two major ships that was just kind of on clockwork, and they were so far behind because there was three that when we moved there in 2014, that one had just bowed out. And then it was down to two, and then at the beginning of the year, like May, I want to say May, April, a second one bowed out. So it was down to one company, which isn't good. I know a lot of people out there think, oh, if I'm the only business doing it, I'm getting a lot of business, but that's a problem. It's too much business, which doesn't help you. You can't handle the load. There's too much required. So they were running on clockwork, and when we came back, I can't remember which hurricane it was that was going up the coastline. The one that hit, I think it hit South Carolina last year, or yeah, in 2015. Came up the coast, and they got caught. One of the ships got caught in that, and I think it was 15 people on board drowned. They didn't find any survivors on the ship, but it's not just the ship, the people, the lives, and also everything that was being transported for every store, manufacturers, people, stuff that they bought through other parcels were on the ship, and they went down with the ship. So a lot of stuff people depended on top of losing 13 to 15 lives. So it's never a good thing to see people in that sort of a situation. And I know when Irma looked like Irma was gonna hit San Juan, and it basically grazed part of the island that was just north of the rainforest. But that area is just so unsound already. It's people made their own houses on the beach. Like you can easily throw a rock into the ocean, like from the house. It's that close. I mean, I remember when we were and now this is at the other end of the island, exact opposite end of the island, Cabo Rojo. Like people literally had part of their house that was on stilts in the water. And it wasn't even like the house was built up really high. It's just that they ran out of land where they were trying to build their house, so they put some, you know, 4x4s underneath the house for support. So it's just it's it's tough, especially especially after living there and knowing more about it and feel like you know you have a vested interest in it and you're more educated on it. So I mean, most people think, and that sucks for Puerto Rico, a vacation island, but I mean, we're talking about the same way we talked about. Man, think about all those Americans in Texas and all those Americans in Florida. We got all those Americans in Puerto Rico. Not the tourists, the ones that live there. They're American and Puerto Rican. So they're U.S. citizens. I've been talking with people there to try to work out some sort of relief effort. Um, I haven't nailed anything down by details, but when I learn more how people can contribute, I will let people know. Um, but I've been in constant contact with with several people I know over there. Before Irma, I checked on them after Irma, and even just earlier today, um, checking to see how they were doing, and people were just preparing. Um, Irma, they kind of looked at as a near miss. It was kind of it knocked out power in areas where they probably won't have power back for weeks, and caused some flooding. So it wasn't. It wasn't. I guess you can say overall Irma outside of Bermuda, uh, it Irma underdelivered for what everybody cautioned, which is yeah. Outside of those two, that's for well, you won't get far if you do. We'll keep an eye on that and update people throughout the show on that. So, well, we'll get back into sports talk. We have some guests joining us tonight here in 10 minutes or so. Mike from Spread, Mike cable's a little loose, from spreadbetterpicks.com will join us. That's nice. I like they put out all their picks on Instagram. So it's like you don't have to fiddle fart around finding them on a website. You can just see their picks out on social media. You don't have to. It's not. It's easier. It's easily accessible there. So Mike will be joining us here in a little bit. I know he has a hot pick for the NFL this weekend, and wants to talk a little bit about um, the Thursday night game, and we'll probably get into some of the Florida teams as well because they all seem to be causing people to pay attention to them. Um, and then in the second hour, the end of the second hour, at 10 o'clock, Greg Smith from Hail Varsity will join the show. We're gonna talk a little college football with him as well. He's a recruiting analyst for Hail Varsity, and we're gonna talk a little bit about um, the suicide watch that's going on in Nebraska with Nebraska fans starting a season 1 and 2 uh, after losing to Northern Illinois, uh, losing the week before to Oregon, and then almost losing the week before that to Arkansas State. I know a lot of people are feeling it's Mike Riley's time to leave, and he'll talk a little bit about that and how this could affect recruiting and coaching. So we'll have him on a little bit later in the show as well. I mean, this week's kind of, I mean, outside as far as college football goes, it's not. It doesn't seem like a very action-packed week. It will probably will be, but it doesn't like on paper. It doesn't look that way. Um, I mean, what are you going to be watching this weekend, Kevin? Mm-hmm. It yeah, yeah, yeah. All undefeated. Yeah, yeah. At least looks that way. And you know, like I am looking at your week 4 picks, and I'm just the games to watch. Penn State, Iowa. I, that's probably going to be the best game of the weekend because we would probably think Oklahoma Baylor might be fun to watch, but you don't know what you're going to get at all now after Baylor loses to Liberty. I mean, great for Turner Gill, uh, doing well with another small school. Uh, Not in the MAC though. I know you're. Yeah, and so so that you're saying that there's absolutely 100% chance that Oklahoma wins that game. That's what you did I get that? correct? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Yeah. It, yeah. Yeah. Hmm. It's seeming like they're gonna have three lost teams in the playoffs. It kind of, I don't know. It feels like that. So, but speaking, like you were saying, speaking of matchups, let me bring on our first guest of the evening. He's Mike from spreadbetterpicks.com. Um, how are you doing tonight? You're doing tonight, Mike? I'm doing great. Got I'm not gonna lie, my thoughts for the past like 3 hours have been almost undivided from Hurricane Maria hitting Puerto Rico, and it's been clouding my thoughts. Uh, but as far as sports go, I mean, I know we talked a little bit earlier today. It does seem like it's a kind of a down week for college football, but on the NFL side, um, there seems to be some pretty entertaining games coming up. that's some good news. It all starts off um, Thursday, which is only a couple days away. There's actually they got the two games, the one in London, right? Uh, yeah, Sunday morning, and then the Thursday game is L.A. and San Francisco. So the battle of the West Coast. Um, that I might I don't know I'll probably be up to watch the London Jaguars play the Manchester Ravens. Um, so maybe I have a vested interest in that game. I think that's going to be a good game. I don't know. I mean the Jags are one of those teams that's kind of come up and surprised people by beating the Texans and making it look competitive at some points against the Titans. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's it's going to be a lot of turnovers, a lot of grinding it out, third and longs. Absolutely. So I mean that Spreadbetter.picks. That's awesome. That's Kevin's like, you can give me a job. Yeah. Yeah, it's like
bet the house on that game. I mean, we looked at Louisville. I think we only had one loss in the first week, and it was Louisville when they didn't cover. I forgot who they played the first week. They didn't cover the first week. We went 3-1.
They played Purdue. They played Purdue in Indianapolis the first week.
A lot of people didn't see Purdue stepping up like that. They were
watched that whole game and saw Louisville and just saw that they weren't at that same level of Clemson, you know. And when I saw that spread was -3, I mean, we couldn't believe it. We really couldn't believe it.
That was a gift, right? And then Louisville comes back the next week against North Carolina, and while they pulled it out, they scored some points late. They still gave up 27 points to a North Carolina team that got told by California the week, right? So you start building these building blocks, right, of looking, and you go, there was no way in my mind that Louisville was going to stay on the field with Clemson, and they didn't. I mean, it turned out about what I would have predicted that it would turn out. I mean, Clemson, their defense is ferocious. Their offense, Kelly Bryant is every bit as good, if not better, than Deshaun Watson in my mind.
He's an animal.
I mean, you look at Clemson right now. I mean, you look at your top four and you go, wow, Clemson, wow, Oklahoma. Alabama, not so sure. They've got some injuries on defense. I'm not sure how they're going to weather that SEC West storm, although LSU doesn't look all that good right now. But I'm looking at Oklahoma.
Is it the LSU? Is it the LSU doesn't look good, or did they just come up against a good team?
I think they're not good. I don't think they're good this year. They're going to be out of the top 25. I think it's very soon.
I'm not sure how they're still hanging in there after that.
Yeah, I think they're 25 right now on one poll, and then AP, I think there's 25 coaches I'm looking at. They're 23rd. So
they beat BYU. BYU has no offense, so that wasn't, and it was a quasi home game over there in Houston anyway. They actually played that in New Orleans. I think they moved it. So but yeah, I'm looking at all this stuff, and I don't know how good Penn State is. Now you've got Ohio State with some questions, but Ohio State lost an early game 3 years ago and won the national championship. So it's still possible for some of these teams, especially since Ohio State lost to a team that is potentially going to go undefeated. So
I think we don't know. Football teams, they're a little weaker this year. I mean, you got Michigan. You feel like they were great a few years ago. They haven't really looked good in their 3 wins. They beat Air Force 29-13. Cincinnati only 36-14. They haven't looked that great. And then you got your Bama, who's always going to be there. They haven't, like you said, on defense, they have a few injuries right there that's going to hurt them. But Clemson, Oklahoma, they look great. But then, like you said, Penn State, they're the number 4 team, and how good are they? We don't really know.
And USC, we were talking USC before you came on. We were talking about USC, right?
Yeah,
I think that's crazy. USC at 5. I think they're the most overrated team every year. Come on, I mean, like you said, you hit it right off the point when you said Stanford. That Stanford win means zero.
Nothing.
Then you got
nothing.
Then you got Texas. They barely beat Texas, 27-24. And Texas is 1-2. I mean, they lost to Maryland by 10. So come on, USC. they're not a number 4.
And Maryland with a freshman quarterback. Freshman quarterback there at Maryland.
Yeah, and USC barely beat Western Michigan in week 1 in the Rose Bowl.
They were struggling. They were down in the first half, right?
Yeah. That's that team. But I look at the Pac-12, and I'm wondering where they're going to get exposed because the Arizona teams are down, right? They're not playing very well. And I don't have the schedule right in front of me until USC plays. But I'll tell you a team in the Pac-12 you got to watch out for right now. That's Washington State.
Yeah, that's 2 weeks away.
Mike Leach.
They play them. They play them in 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
That is going to be
at Washington.
I'm predicting.
Yeah.
Well, I want to see the line on that. I want to see what your pick on that one is because USC has to go to Washington State. That's a tough place to play, and that's going to be a big game. I mean, if Washington State wins that game, my goodness, you've got kind of a sleeper team on the national scene right there.
Yep.
I'm wondering what the line of that game is going to be. Because at this point,
it'll move.
USC schedule they're looking at their schedule's pretty weak. They're at Cal next week, then they go at Washington State. That's going to be the toughest game of the year easily. And I think they're going to lose that game. That line is going to be very interesting. But I think Washington State's going to win that game.
And then after that, they're really next.
Well,
Utah's ranked, but Utah really hasn't played anybody either. But the last 2 games are Colorado and UCLA, both 2 teams that have potential. But what will they be? In the last 2 weeks of the season, we don't know. After they're chewed up and digested by the rest of the Pac-12. So it's
UCLA, despite their loss at Memphis, and that was a gimme game to me. Was UCLA going to Memphis and playing at 9 o'clock in the morning Pacific time? I'm not sure what the line of that game was, but I'd have gone Memphis all the way, just at least to cover. They ended up winning the game, but I'm going to the West Coast team out.
That game.
Yeah, so but we'll see. I mean, I don't have USC penciled in right now as being in anything because I just think they're going to stumble because I haven't seen much from them. But last year they did start out slowly and they're winning their last 6 games. So it's still early, right, in the college football season because you don't know. You don't know what these wins meant. Right?
Each week when you're betting gets easier and easier for college football. In my opinion, you could just see the matchups, and it's just
because you can tell who the identity is after a few weeks. That's why because the rankings screw everything up. I mean, I understand. This is why the bowl championship or the tournament championship committee doesn't meet till several weeks in because you don't know who these teams are. I mean, how do you? I mean, seriously though, week 1. I mean, other than Alabama, I mean, who could we say is a top 5 team? Like honestly, there was reserves about everybody else after them. And even Kevin had Alabama losing 2.
I don't know. They don't play a ranked game. They got Vandy. They're gonna whoop them. Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Tennessee. You're gonna win all those. LSU gonna beat them. Then they play at Mississippi State. That's gonna be maybe the toughest game. And then another, I think Mercer, and then they got Auburn. So.
That Mercer game.
Pencil them in the college football playoffs. That's a guarantee. To me, that's a guarantee. Bama in the playoffs. They're even if they lose one game, they beat an FSU team that was number 3. They're going to be, they're in the SEC, so a one-loss SEC team has to make it, and I don't see them losing more than one game. You could pencil them in, and I think you could pencil Clemson in as well. I mean, they look pretty damn good. And then they got easier schedule. Then they got FSU, who knows how. Is their quarterback? He's out for the year, isn't he?
Yeah, he's out. So that's a big loss for Florida State. It also lessens the competition in the ACC Atlantic. So it kind of diminishes that division. Plus, I'm sorry, Louisville. Listen, Bobby Petrino was here at Arkansas a few years ago, and it's all offense with him. So I think Louisville last year stumbled at the end of the season, and I think they're just continuing that kind of free fall this year.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
they're in for some losses. I mean, especially if Lamar Jackson loses his confidence, which he definitely could after that loss. But
they're done for.
Let me give you a sleeper team, guys, in the ACC, and it's not Virginia Tech, because you can't be a sleeper after you lose to Clemson by 7 in the championship game and
Wave
then
banner.
put up 64 on ECU.
Wave the banner.
I'll tell you a team that's playing good football that no one's talking about, and you probably know about these guys because you're doing the spreads. Wake Forest. That team is going to beat somebody. They are a pretty good football team, and they're so far under the radar. That's a team that I think is going to beat some spreads big time because the people making the spreads don't know anything about them.
They remind me of Tennessee about 4 years ago. You know how they came close to beating, who was it? They almost beat Florida. They should have beat Florida. They should have beat LSU. You remember which team? I think it was Jones's second year in town there.
Yeah, where they had all those losses, those close game losses.
Yeah, that's what they remind me of.
Yeah.
I think that they're a team that's getting close to getting over a hump as far as developmentally for a program to be competitive. And they were a little competitive, and then Franklin left, and he went to Penn State. Still, he's continued success there. But the successor they hired after him at Wake, I mean, he's continuing to do a good job. So it's
But yeah, like you said, it's tough for all these experts to look at every game and pinpoint. And what's good about college football is the spreads sometimes are so high. You get some of these are minus 41, minus 38. It's none of these games are going to be pushes. They're usually, NFL you get a minus 3, you get a minus 6, and a lot of times they're right there. They're either a 5, 6, 7 point game, or if it's minus 3, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4 point game. College football, it's a little easier. The over and under, like last week, for example, you got Oklahoma. I think the over and under was 50, 54. They covered that in almost the end of the third quarter. So, I mean, you don't see that really happening in the NFL at all, but you see that in college football. You see that happening all the time, where teams are covering the over and unders, the overs. I'm sorry, and the first 3 quarters they don't have to play the fourth. So the college it's a lot. I think the college is a lot easier than the NFL. That's definitely where you can make the most money. The NFL, though, I'm telling you, the props. Look at the props. Props are a lot easier than picking games because week 1, for example, it was Pittsburgh. We picked Antonio Brown. We picked him to have over 6.5 over 5.5 catches, I believe, and over 80 yards. I think he had 9 or 10 catches for 180 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So you could pick and choose so many props on there that it's almost like picking college football when you're doing NFL props.
Now I understand you have something special. We're going to talk a little bit more about. We have a little bit more time here. We'll talk about a couple other games in the NFL, but you have a treat for our listeners. A pick for this week.
Yes, sir.
In the NFL.
A free pick of the week. Yes, sir. That game will be Pittsburgh and Chicago. We got Pittsburgh going to Chicago, and the spread is minus. I think it's minus 8, but you can change. We like to change it's minus 8.5. It's that plus 105. We're going to change that to minus 7 for minus 120, and that's our lock of the week right there. You got Chicago. They're 0-2. They average 12 points a game, and they give up 26. While you got Pittsburgh, high-powered offense, averaging 24, and they only giving up 13. I think it's going to be a pretty lopsided game. Chicago lacks any type of offense. The defense isn't much better. Mike Glennon, if he continues his woes at quarterback, might not be long until you see, Sanchez come in or the rookie quarterback. I know they want to groom him, Trubisky. Want to groom him a little more. Only have 1 year of college experience, but yeah, that Pittsburgh minus 7. Look for that for the lock of the week right there.
That's awesome. Now with that, I mean, Chicago. I watched Glennon because I watched the Bucks really close, and Glennon really wasn't. I mean, I know he threw 4 interceptions in the first half, but he wasn't really having a bad game. He wasn't playing bad. 2 of the passes that were intercepted were deflected or he was hit, and then the other 2 were slightly underthrown. And I mean, McLean was 1, and I think TJ Ward. I mean, a former All-Pro and a guy that has made a living off of interceptions. In his, I think McLean's been in the league 6 or 7 years, so he's kind of been somewhat of a ball hawk in his relief time on the field. He's always stepped up. So 2 guys made really athletic plays on the ball. I mean, the other 2 interceptions were hit. Like, one was kind of like a weird play. You were wondering if it was a fumble, incomplete, or interception. And it ended up being Quan Alexander interception. The other one was Levante David came up with an interception. So it was kind of, it was a quirky first half, but really neither team did anything in the second half. I think they both scored 7 in the second half or something like that. So it wasn't... it came back down to earth. So, I could see that because those props aren't. You go ahead.
Go ahead. The props aren't out yet for that game. The props aren't out for those games yet. But something to look at is Antonio Brown again. Mike Evans. I think he had what do you have? 7 catches for 90 to 100 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
I think you can look for much of that. The same with Antonio Brown this week. He had played a pretty tough Vikings defense. He had a little off game. I don't think he had more than 60 yards, only 5 catches. So I like to see him have a big bounce back game this week. So look at those props. If it looks under, if it's 80, it's probably going to be about 85, 90 yards. Look for that one to be over. I like that. I like that one a lot too, as well for the props.
And for the Steelers, they're supposed to get T.J. Watt back. That's what they're saying is he could be back from a groin injury he suffered last week. He's been on he's been sitting out practices, but they're thinking that he might be healthy to play against the Bears, which again he's a big part of the pressure up front in the box. So he's back.
Exactly. It can only help big time.
That's more pressure on Glennon. So that'll be interesting.
Definitely, they're going to want to put some pressure on Glennon. If they get a few turnovers early, it can get pretty ugly, and that's what we're hoping for.
I'm just literally. This is just speaking much without thinking. The thoughts going through my head because again, I mean, everybody's listening to the show. They know Kevin's the gambler, and I'm a sports guy. That's kind of it. I played some, but that's it. I don't gamble because usually when I do. I lose. Like I'm terrible at gambling. Like I don't think I've ever won at a casino. If it's casino lottery, I played the lottery literally 15 tickets. I played 15 tickets in my life. I've never got a single number right, ever. Now, but if I play like Texas Hold'em, where now there's more human error involved, then I can win. But the other stuff, it's kind of, I don't know why. I lose. But sitting here thinking like, because we did talk a little bit earlier, because those that are sports bettors bet on sports. It's not they just pick their team. They just bet on their team. No, they bet on everything. So like Kevin, yeah, I mean he missed out on a couple $100 because he missed that prop bet last week, but he's probably going to go to spreadbetterpicks.com and he'll have that pick now. But
there you go. You gotta do that as well. You won't have those problems anymore.
Exactly. But I see why it is. Like it was, and it even more so. I can feel it now. Why fantasy football is gambling more than I've agreed. I mean, he's kind of changed my mind on it. That it's just gameplay. it is gambling, and even more so because you pay attention to stuff that you wouldn't normally pay attention to, because now there's that vested interest in. So.
And I know a lot of people that do, those DraftKings and fantasy sports.
Mm-hmm.
I never understood why they must not know about, NFL prop bets. Go to online sportsbook and do some prop bets. You put all your research into DraftKings. You do all that research. You should find a couple games here and there where they slip under the cracks. Like last week, that Tom Brady was for sure going to go off against them in the yard. I think he had 447. The over/under was like over/under 3-something. Sam Bradford. Not to take anything away from him, he's a solid quarterback. He's no Tom Brady, and he threw for over, I think, 340, 350 yards. And
he did bomb on him.
So,
and from what I've gathered is he will probably sit out Sunday as a precaution. That's what it's looking like now. That could change. They'll probably
because the spread's not out. The line isn't out on that game right now.
Yeah,
the spread's not out because the quarterback situation. They don't know because that's going to play a huge role. If he doesn't play, look for Tampa Bay to win this game double digits, I think. If he plays, you're going to have a more balanced offense for Minnesota. It'll be a great game if he were to play. But if he don't play, then I don't know if they're going to have much of a shot.
And the NFL.
Go ahead. But if you go even further to the analysis on the Patriots, is that the Chiefs had Eric Berry playing Gronkowski, and basically took him out of the game, right? Because that's how good he is. The Saints had nobody. The Saints have nobody to cover Gronkowski, and so Brady just went to town. So that's why that prop that. I wish I'd seen that. By the way, I need to start frequenting your site then, I guess, to get the heads up on this stuff. Because seriously, if I'd seen that, I'd been all over that, right? Because you look at this stuff. The line of the games are hard because there's so many factors, but the prop bets give you a chance to isolate a particular matchup or a particular situation that you can take advantage of because you know what you're talking about, right? And so I agree with that. That's a great thing. The college game, you can actually find games to win against the spread, which I do frequently because I just go through and I look at the game and go like the San Diego State Stanford game last week. Stanford was like, I think they were double-digit favorites. I'm like, they're not going to do that because San Diego State's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And so I went with San Diego State. I didn't think it was going to win the game, but they covered. So those are the kind of matchups you can find in college football that you really can't find in the pros, in NFL, because there's just so much scrutiny.
I mean, college football, you can pick and choose. There's so many options you can pick and choose. NFL, you don't really have any options. But the prop bets, like I said, you could pick and choose those. That's why we love those prop bets.
Yeah.
They said,
I mean, like last week, you could have done 3 separate prop bets on Tom Brady. You could have done over on the yards. You could have done over on the 2.5 touchdowns, and then over on the completions, I believe. So that's 3 prop bets right there that you could easily win.
Touchdowns.
And you're just betting on Brady. I mean, that's all you were doing. You're just betting on Brady, right?
Yes,
2 separate bets. What the heck, Tom Brady?
He has like one bad game a year. That's it. He has one bad game a year, and then people's like, "Oh, you're gonna play? He's 40." I remember that week 1 loss. Well, Brady's 40 now. I'm like, really? We're talking about this now?
No. This guy, he's the GOAT. I mean, this dude's gonna be. I think he's gonna win 2 more Super Bowls. To be honest with you.
Wow. There's a prop bet.
Is that a lock? No. Is that a free lock?
Over under on Brady Super Bowl 1.5. I mean,
I had my lock here actually was I don't know about the lock of the year, but it was up there though. It was the futures bet. They do futures bets before the NFL before every season starts.
Mm-hmm.
One of the future bets was, I think it was only at -130, which was a shocker. It was the Patriots to make the AFC Championship game. I thought that was, a no-brainer, an absolute no-brainer. I mean, they're in the weakest. I'm not going to say the weakest division, but they're going to beat the Jets twice. They're going to beat the Bills twice. They're going to beat probably the Dolphins twice. So right there, they're 6-0. They're going to get a first-round bye. All you got to do is win one game in the playoffs. Tom Brady's going to win one game off a bye week in the playoffs to get to the AFC Championship game. So
which will be at home. Which will be at home, right, in December.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or January, whichever the schedule works, right? So they're going to be playing in Foxborough at home against a team they should beat anyway.
The Raiders,
right?
probably.
So
Because that's kind of how the world works.
And that played the week before.
Right. Yeah.
And my prediction of the week, my prediction of the year to go along with that, if it's the Raiders, that I'd put an over/under around 6 times in the broadcast where they're going to talk about the tuck rule. It have to be somewhere around 6. You'd think, you know?
Oh, I'm sure there's going to be a prop bet of that. You can almost guarantee it. That's funny.
I will say this though, the only caveat I'll put to the Patriots getting to the AFC Championship game is, and we were talking about this before you came on the air, the AFC West is really strong. And 2 of those teams are most likely to be wild cards.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So you could have a case where a really good Chiefs team, which already beat the Patriots once, is the team that the Patriots have to play in that first playoff game. Or it could be the Raiders, or it could be the Broncos. You know, that throws a whole different wrinkle into how easily that path is for the Patriots to the championship game, because those AFC West teams, the 2 that don't win the championship, and right now, I don't know about you, I don't see anybody else contending for a wild card spot except for the 2nd and 3rd place teams in the AFC West, unless somebody gets in. I mean, if Derek Carr gets injured, all bets are off, right? Who knows?
No, yeah. Barring injury, I think you're right. I think you hit it dead on.
Yeah.
Okay, so that does complicate that a little bit.
Yeah, because you look at the AFC South, Titans, Jaguars. That's not even going to be an option right there. You can already take that one out. Then you got the Ravens, that Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they're going to win that division pretty easy. You got Browns, Bengals, not even going to be in it. Then you got the Ravens are going to be right there. I don't even think that they're going to end up falling off. They're not going to do that great, I don't believe. Then you got Jets are horrible. Bills, they're going to be an average 7-9 team maybe. And then you got the Dolphins, who actually, Jay Cutler surprised me. He surprised me last week. If you're a Dolphins fan, you definitely should like what you saw. But you're right. I don't see them. That would be the only other team to maybe compete with those guys in the AFC West.
I don't think it's surprising
because it's the schedule.
I don't think he's that surprising down there.
The schedule, right?
Yeah.
What's that?
But the schedule. The reason that the Dolphins are going to contend with one of those teams is because of the schedule. The Raiders are
beating on each other.
They got to play each other, right? They got to beat each other up. So, and I don't think any of them are going to sweep the other one. So they're all going to end up with 3 losses, right? A couple of losses, right, amongst themselves.
And this is
but I'm Dolphins with that. Yeah,
I'm taking a quick look at the Dolphins schedule right now.
Yeah, their last half.
Count them out a bit.
Yeah, their last half is brutal. I mean,
they got to play. Let's see. They got the Jets this week. Should be a win. They got the Saints. That's okay. Then they got the Titans, pretty tough. Falcons at Atlanta.
Yeah.
They got the Jets again. Then they got the Ravens at Baltimore. Then they got the Raiders. Then you got the Panthers. Then you got the Buccaneers. Then you got the Patriots. Then you got the Broncos. Then you got the Patriots again. Then you got the Bills. You got the Chiefs. I mean, it's brutal. It is brutal for the Dolphins.
So they play, the AFC East plays the AFC West.
Yeah.
So that puts the Dolphins at disadvantage, right? Because that puts them literally in that division with them, right?
Exactly.
So forget the Dolphins. So if the Dolphins have the best chance, then they have no chance because they're having to play the 3 teams they're going to have to contend with, and they're probably going to lose.
You could already chalk in the AFC playoffs right now. I mean, Patriots, Steelers, those 3 teams in the West. Then you got probably Tennessee going to come out of that one. So I think that the AFC is already set right there.
Let me
2 games in already, huh?
Well, unless the Texans gel under
Deshaun Watson,
the rookie, under Deshaun Watson, because their defense can play. I mean, we know that.
Yeah,
right.
Oh, definitely.
And so, if that offensive line can somehow come together and somehow give Watson time to run around back there, they've got a chance. But that's a long shot. I'll agree with you. That is a long shot. But who knows? They may be able to contend with the Titans because the Titans aren't that deep. So
they're not that deep, but that division's a little toss up right there. But I would have to edge the Titans right now. You know, they got more of a balance, definitely more of a balanced offense. You know, you got those Derrick Henry, right? I think he needs to be a starter somewhere. He needs to either start on Titans or to be a starter somewhere else because that guy is an animal. He's a monster. I mean, you look at his stats. I mean, this year, him and DeMarco Murray have the same attempts, 21 attempts. Henry's averaging 5.9 carries. Murray's only averaging 3.3. I mean, Murray's a stud, but I think that Derrick Henry. I think.
Yeah, the coach kind of addressed that. He favors DeMarco Murray, but there's no other reason than that. Henry's not starting because the coach favors DeMarco Murray. That's it. That's the only reason. Not that he doesn't think he's as productive or more productive. It's just he favors DeMarco Murray. He likes him better. That's really the only thing. Now, thing.
I mean, at least they're splitting the carries. Though. That's at least something.
Yeah. And I think that's
the books to be fresh.
Exactly.
That's pretty balanced offense.
I think that makes it more beneficial for him. Now, one more thing. I just kind of want to throw this out there. It really doesn't have to do with bets. I know we gotta move on. But I've been hearing whispers that Andy Dalton's time in Cincy could be coming to its end, and there's interest potentially in calling Kaepernick in Cincinnati. What do you think that does for the prospect of Cincinnati?
Man, I could see that happening though, because Cincinnati they are struggling mightily this year. I mean, I think they're averaging 4.5 points a game. You know, they got to put up 0 against the Ravens, and then 9 against the Texans. Granted, pretty solid defenses, but I mean, Dalton. It seems like he's progressing every year as an NFL quarterback. I think his time needs to go. And Kaepernick, I mean, how much can you help that team? You know, I mean, they don't have a team. They don't have anybody on that team. You know they got AJ Green, and that's about it. They don't Kaepernick. I mean, they're going to be still if he joins that team. Even if he started this year on that team, I'd give them maybe 4 wins the most. You know, they need to totally rebuild Cincinnati,
and that could be towards the end for the coach too. So, but.
Exactly. Marvin. I think he's got to go too. They just totally gotta just do over that whole team and just go. Start fresh.
Isn't Marvin Lewis the second longest tenured coach in the league?
Yeah,
behind Belichick.
But people are getting impatient because he's not.
They have no playoff wins.
Exactly.
They have none. 0. Nada.
Yeah. Yeah, that can't happen. I mean, if you're the longest guy, you're supposed to be producing some playoff wins at least. You know, yeah, that team's totally in a disarray right now.
All right, and Mike, before
and they played Green Bay this week, so that was going to be our pick. You know, but Jordy Nelson, the Green Bay's battling injuries that happened last week. But look for that game to be pretty lopsided as well at Green Bay. That's. Not going to say that's our lock, but that's another one that we like. Green Bay over Cincinnati this week.
What's the line on that game?
I believe it's -10.
That'd be interesting.
So Cincinnati with no touchdowns in their first 2 games at home, go to Green Bay and they're only a 10-point underdog. Boy, I'm all over Green Bay. I'm all over Green Bay on that one.
No, definitely, yeah. I think even barring all the injuries from Green Bay, they should have no problem, in that game.
Well, their defense has really stepped up, right? I mean, that's the difference this year with Green Bay. They actually have a defense.
They didn't show much of it against the Falcons, though. Falcons did whatever they really wanted. The Falcons in that fourth quarter, though, man. What's up with them in the fourth quarter? I mean, you had the Super Bowl last year, then the Bears, and then the Falcons. I mean, nothing with the Falcons. The Packers almost came back on them in the fourth.
Yeah, it's
wow,
man. Maybe we're just gonna have to do a whole show on this weekly, just a whole show or something. But real quick before you go, Mike, just remind all the listeners where they can find you. And I understand there's a special offer for our listeners out there.
Yeah, so you can find us on www.spreadbetterpicks.com. And if you go to the link, you go to the packages, go to whatever package you're interested in, and see college football, NFL, a combo, baseball, hopefully soon soccer. You're going to go to the packages, you're going to click on it, and we're offering a 20% off on your purchase if you put the coupon GOLONG, GOLONG, go long, and you'll get 20% off your first purchase there. Spreadbetterpicks.com.
That's awesome. Well, Mike,
follow us on Instagram. It's at Spreadbetter, and then on Twitter you can follow us there. That's Spreadbetter LLC.
That's wonderful. We got you over there, and then I'll have that promotion code. I'll have it up on the site and on social media so people can find that as well. So thanks for coming on, Mike. We appreciate it.
Hey, thank you guys, man. Glad to be on here and happy to join anytime.
Absolutely.
Hey, Mike, and I'll send you my contact stuff. This is a blast. It was great talking to you.
Yes, sir. Send me and I'll get you on them picks.
Okay. All right, man.
Have a good one, guys.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
It's Mike. I think we talked.
That was
awesome, right?
That was some entertaining stuff right there. That really was. That was good.
I mean, I think I've had two conversations with the guys, and I don't think any of them's been under an hour. Like, he's incredibly easy to talk to, and he knows his shit. And it's reflected in the picks, because when I talked to him about coming on, right? I mean, I texted you about some of the stuff over the weekend, and I'm just kind of looking at the picks, and I'm like, wow, they're doing pretty good. And he said 60, they're at a little over the 60% hump, and I'm like, Jesus. You know, if you're getting 2/3 of anything right, that's pretty solid. You know,
against the spread, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, against the spread,
that's strong stuff. So yeah,
that's against the spread, not just pick 'em. I mean, profits are higher than that.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of what they look at and are the prop bets, which that's kind of low hanging fruit to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of people, because that's the kind of stuff, if you really study the sport, like you said, Brady was over-under was 2.5 on touchdown passes. Well, the Saints give up 4 touchdown passes a game you could throw 4 touchdown passes against the Saints. And so you get Tom Brady with Gronkowski, right? I mean, you know, that kind of bet is kind of a mouth-watering to guys like that really study it. So interesting interview. I thought the guy was fascinating. I thought a lot of insight that he provided.
Hey, you know what? I got a little stat here that, I mean, it makes me feel old, so it probably does a lot for you. You know, I was going to say that, you know, it's that first grade math, you know, that basic first grade math, but they learn that math in preschool now. So it's preschool math.
It was probably 8th grade math when I was in school, but that's a whole
I wasn't going to say that. I was. I mean, you guys had so much time. You had to ride horses and stuff. I mean, Jesus. Of course you had less time to study.
You know, we had to generate our electricity. You know, we didn't have all that. I had to put ice into the ice box. There was no refrigerator. It was a long time ago. It was so different.
You know, after this hurricane, I wonder, like, they must have had either so much trouble cleaning up ice, or they had the best damn seals in the world back then. Because, I mean, we have, you know, a state-of-the-art freezer that's supposed to seal and all this stuff. And I come home, because we left on Friday, because we're like, you know what? We'll go to Tampa. We have a place in Tampa to stay. So we went there, and so we could have electricity for a couple days, because we were supposed to get electricity back on Sunday. And so we came back. So we went to Busch Gardens. I went and I watched the fight. You know, stuff like that. And you know, it's crazy. Anyways, let's get back into football. I keep thinking about these stupid storms. That damn weather. Hey, if somebody comes up to me and says global warming does not exist, I don't know. Today, I feel like I could be confrontational today. I don't know. Anyways. Oh, so anyway, so remember, so we left and went to Tampa to escape not having water and electricity. Second night is Saturday. I noticed Saturday when we left to go to Busch Gardens, it was kind of warm in the house. And we got back at like 9 o'clock to the house in Tampa, and it was 88 degrees inside. The air conditioner went out. So we went away from electricity. We went away to get electricity, and then we lost air conditioning also. So it was kind of like the universe is saying, hey, listen, you're going to deal with this for 7 days. But
so you're telling me you're a victim of climate change? Is that what you're telling
me? Yeah, I am. I mean, we all are.
Yeah.
It's
exactly. I agree. So,
and you know what?
Well, I've got a.
I was going to ask you about Nebraska losing, because Greg is going to join us here pretty soon. And again, I think we're the only two people in the world this year that kind of gave Nebraska's strength of schedule any sort of like credibility with Arkansas State and Northern Illinois. I think we were kind of worried, what is Oregon going to be more than I think we kind of understood what Arkansas State was and what we've seen in Northern Illinois before. So, and they're very close to your MAC conference. So, you know, what do you make of that?
Well, I mean, in all honesty, Arkansas State was a bowl team last year. They're not a pushover, right? I mean, that's a decent football team. Oregon was really an unknown. Willie Taggart, your guy from down there in South Florida, going up to Oregon. He did great things in South Florida. He goes up there and Mark Helford's made a mess of things, but Willie seems to have gotten the mojo back this year. I mean, you know that team had lots of talent. I mean, Oregon has lots of talent. They have for years.
Yeah,
he's a good football coach, and so he just kind of got them, kind of a reset to 2 or 3 years ago, and so that was a tough game for Nebraska. I mean, last year I think Nebraska beat them close in Nebraska.
Yeah.
This year they had to go up to Eugene. That's tough. And then NIU is a MAC team, and they're really good. I mean, they've beaten some teams before.
I thought they were Mid-American.
That's just kind of a letdown. I think that was Mid-American. Sorry.
Yeah.
They're just kind of but they're a good team. And in fact, NIU, I think 2 years ago, was in the running for the group of five to get into the New Year's Day Bowl, and they lost. They got upset late in the season or something. So that's a team that's pretty good. But Nebraska, Mike Riley I thought he would be a good fit there, but he just hasn't done it. I mean, in Europe. And by the way, the significant other of a guy that works for me is a huge Nebraska fan. She went to Nebraska undergrad, and Wake Forest is in grad school. And, she just bleeds red, just like you guys do. And it was not a good day for her on Saturday from Nebraska standpoint, but Wake Forest won, so she was happy there. But yeah, so I follow Nebraska just because of her. But yeah, that was a disappointing loss. I mean,
it's great to hear. I have no impact on that.
$300,000.
It's great.
Yeah, $300,000 to come and get beaten. I mean, yeah, hey, come on in. We're going to pay you $300,000 so you can beat us, and that's a bad thing. So I'm not sure where Mike Riley stands with the boosters in Nebraska.
Yeah.
Do they like him? Do they not? Because that's a short leash there. They have lots of money, right? So to buy out contracts, that's a short leash.
Yeah. You'd think so.
So we'll have to see. I mean, the only school that probably could have a shorter leash is Tennessee with Coach Jones right now. He's in trouble. Todd Graham, Arizona State, he's gone. You can forget about him. He's done. They lost. I forget who they lost to on Saturday. There's a bad loss, and so he's kind of done.
It wasn't Liberty.
There's lots of coaches. No, but it was almost as bad. But they've got lots of. There's going to be some coaching availabilities here, but I'm not sure Mike Riley goes after this year. You know a little more about that than I do, and we'll see if they can get that ship righted. But boy, the Big Ten West is tough. I mean, Iowa's good. Minnesota's on the uptick. Wisconsin's really good this year. That's tough. That's going to be tough for Nebraska to right the ship. And they're 1-2 already.
Yeah.
To get bowl eligible. They have a tough road. I mean, I don't have.
Well, they face Rutgers this weekend.
I don't know who they play. Well, that's if they can't beat Rutgers, then Mike Riley might not last another week, because if you can't beat Rutgers, you pretty much can't beat anybody, right? In the Big Ten. So, but I'm not sure. I don't have it right in front of me. I'm not sure who Nebraska plays. Do they play Ohio State or Michigan? I'm not sure who they play on the other side of the bracket.
Yeah, they got Ohio State.
If I remember correctly, I thought they had a fairly. Okay. Do they host Ohio State? I believe they host Ohio State.
Yeah, this year they host. They went to.
But I thought they had a fairly favorable bracket, on the other side. But
I'm sorry, no, it's.
I thought their schedule was fairly favorable.
Oh, I'm sorry, they go to Michigan. My bad. Hold on.
It's Michigan.
Hold on a second.
Oh, wait.
Never mind.
No, they host.
Oh, I pulled up the Ohio State schedule.
They have a tough.
Nebraska is in Lincoln. It's in Lincoln.
They play so.
Ohio State.
Yeah, so they play Wisconsin, Ohio State back to back in a couple weeks. That's going to say how good they are. I mean,
Greg's laughing at me. I know it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a tough little stretch there. But they don't play Ohio State. They do have to go to Penn State. So I'm not sure Nebraska gets bowl eligible. I mean, it's looking pretty tough because
I don't know.
You've got Wisconsin, Ohio State, Penn State, Iowa. Right now, this looks like all losses. So you
not so fast there
somewhere.
Kevin. You may have insulted them a little bit. You may have insulted them a little bit.
Now I hit the hot button. Okay. Now I hit the hot button.
Yeah, but with what you've seen, at least it's going to be a one-score game, probably. So that seems to be some sort of a pattern. But
it's going to be a tough path to a bowl game. I'm telling you that right now, right?
Yeah, it looks to be that way. But somebody that probably knows more than me is our next guest, Greg Smith. He's recruiting analyst for Hail Varcity. He's also an alumni of Nebraska as well. He's a great guy too. He's joining us right now. How are you doing tonight, Greg?
Hey, I'm good. How are you guys doing?
I'm just making a fool of myself, messing up the schedule, Nebraska guy doesn't even know the schedule.
Yeah, I heard a little bit of that. Luckily, Nebraska does not have Michigan this year.
No,
or else they would have a rough one on that.
No, because it was a blonde moment. I swear to God, because I thought I clicked on Nebraska, but I was touching the screen and I clicked on Ohio State, and I'm looking towards the bottom. I'm like, Michigan, the last game of the year. I'm like, oh no, it's Michigan. They're at Michigan. I'm like, but Nebraska's not going to play Nebraska. Oh wait, no shit. This is the Ohio State schedule. Yes, they have Ohio State in Lincoln.
It happens to the best of us, man. That Northern Illinois loss got you all messed up. Just about
it did. Now Kevin touched a source. Now I'm legitimately worrying if they're going to win another game. I don't know. I don't know. It again. The Arkansas State. I kind of expected that. I'm like, cool, yeah. And then Oregon. I had confidence in Taggart. I thought Nebraska should have won the game, but they pulled it out. Okay, that's not strange. 1-1. Northern Illinois, I thought they would be good in the first half, and it might be close at half, and then they just pulled away, like Nebraska normally does. They normally play football in the second half. I don't know why they don't start in the first half, but they normally start in the second half. Whereas, and I guess they really did against Northern Illinois because it was 14-0 at half, if I remember right. So, 17. Right. They had 17 unanswered points and give up the touchdown in that running touchdown in the fourth quarter. I'm just like, Christ's sakes. About to lose to Northern Illinois.
Matthew.
Yeah.
NIU is a MAC team. Nebraska got MAC attacked. That's what happened.
That's the only reason you watched the game, Kevin.
In the MAC.
I thought they were mid. Yeah, they're Mid-American. Yeah, Mid-American MAC is Mid-American Conference.
Mid-American.
See, I was having
MAC.
Jesus.
MAC.
I think my brain got hit by a hurricane.
MAC attack.
I think it did.
I think it did. I think you have a power outage between your ears. That's okay.
Something like that.
It happens.
But at least you're safe, alive, and all that. That's a good thing.
But I don't mind people laughing at me about it. I think I would laugh. I know I would laugh at myself. I'm laughing at myself inside. Outside, I'm disgusted. Inside, I'm making fun of myself. It's self-deprecating.
Well, you're really upset because. No, you're upset because Nebraska lost to a MAC team, and I love the MAC, and thus you're mad at me.
And
for some reason, I'm the source of all of your angst at the moment. In fact, you're probably thinking that my middle name is Irma, just because
your middle name's Hokey. I know your middle name is Hokey. It's always been Hokey.
Yeah, we're talking 64 points Hokies right there, baby. That's what we're talking right now. That was a beatdown. So
I'm surprised.
We'll get on our guests right now. We'll give him
Greg, Kevin is such a MAC fan. I'm surprised he wasn't in Lincoln running on the field with a MAC flag. Like that would have been.
How do you know I wasn't?
Because I watched the game.
Snuck on there afterwards.
I'm not that far from Lincoln. I can get there in about 7 hours. So
really?
not that bad a drive.
Oh.
Yeah.
Jesus, that's like from me to no, it's not, Atlanta's only 4.5 hours now. But anyways.
Yeah.
So Greg, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing better than you, man. You lost me. You got Irma in the mind, Kevin said.
I've been thinking because I lived in Puerto Rico for a year, and I've been thinking about like the last 4 hours, even while we're here on the show, thinking about people I know about to get hit by a Category 5 storm straight on. We just seen St. John's, Bermuda, these islands just leveled from it. Puerto Rico isn't very big, It's small. It would be like the second smallest state in the U.S. if it was a state. It's not a big island. Like it's 3.5 hours to drive across the island. Like it's not big. Wow. That's why it was like easy to go on vacation there because you could just drive everywhere.
You can see the whole thing.
Yeah, except for when you go to the islands. Like if you go to Vieques or Culebra, those are little islands, so you got to take prop planes and then mock my wife for being so afraid of the plane. I took video. She probably took video of me after Nebraska lost and was like, "What's wrong, sweetie? You think they're gonna crash?" I don't know. I feel like it though. I feel like it. So
I feel like that crash analogy fits very well with Nebraska football here recently.
So how's this sort of stuff? I know right after that loss, I'm like, well, people are going to call for Mike Riley to be fired now. Has that kind of cooled down, or is that kind of
no, it's still going. I mean,
Steve Sipple isn't adding fuel to the fire, is he? Because I feel like Steve Sipple does that sometimes. It's like, oh, fire, gasoline, cool. Like, I don't know if it's intentional,
sometimes.
He's usually pretty sensible.
Oh, it's definitely intentional. But no, I mean, it's cooled down a little bit. Like after Saturday, then Sunday, Monday, like it was definitely, everybody was restless. A lot of fans calling for Mike Riley's job. None of us here could really tweet anything related to the team or the game at all without people being all mad. It was Monday, and we posted something on Hail Varcity about the press conference, and the still frame on the video on the website was Mike Riley smiling. And the very first comment was, Mike Riley doesn't care about winning because he's smiling after a loss. Like, that's how angry people were about what was going on. So, no, it's calmed down from that point. But people are still upset, and people are still going to be restless until hopefully they get a win against Rutgers on Saturday.
Yeah, I hope it's a big win.
Let's talk bigger. Hey, Greg, let's talk bigger picture a second with the Nebraska program, and you're right there. I'm assuming. Do you live in Lincoln? Are you right there?
Oh, yeah.
Somewhere else. Yeah. Okay.
Hail Varsity is a University of Nebraska centered publication around sports.
Okay. So you're part of the community. You're part of the Lincoln community, and obviously the sports community there. Let's go back a couple years. What was the feeling about Mike Riley being hired in the first place? Because I always wondered about that. Did people think they could have done better? Where was that a couple of years ago?
People were shocked because nobody had Mike Riley on any sort of like big board or whatever you would do to get ready for the hire. Like, I mean, I think one of the papers actually did a thing where they compiled all of the different candidates that people talked about. It was like 60 of them that people talked about, and Mike Riley was not one of the 60. It was something crazy like that.
Was that the Herald?
Where, like, I mean, it was complete. Yeah, I think it was the World Herald. Like, it was completely out of left field. Like, I mean, so people were shocked when it first happened. And then, they kind of saw his record and kind of thought, okay, well, this guy really isn't very accomplished. But they tried to write it off as, hey, he was in the Pac-12. He's the second program in his own state behind Oregon. Oregon's got all the cool factor. They got all the Nike money. They had, at one point Chip Kelly. Then they had Helfrich having it rolling for a little bit. And so, okay, we can write that off. But then, to your second point about whether or not people thought that they could do better, of course they thought they could do better. I mean, Nebraska fans believe that Nebraska should be hiring coaches of the caliber of Saban, Urban Meyer, or if it's not one of those guys, it needs to be, when James Franklin got hired at Penn State, or Tom Herman down at Texas, those sorts of coaches where it's the new hotshot up-and-coming coach. And I struggle with whether or not Nebraska is still in that mold. And part of it is that I don't know how willing these big-time coaches are to come to Nebraska, because Nebraska does not have a recruiting base in its state. Like, I think that's something that people just completely overlook. And Nebraska has never showed a real penchant for wanting to pay these head coaches the way that they're going to be paid at other places. Yes, Nebraska paid Bob Diaco $800,000 to come here and save the defense, and we've got two different assistants that are making $400,000. So that's very good as assistant coaches, position coaches, as a wide receiver coach and a defensive back coach. But paying head coaches is not something this administration has done in the past. So you kind of, for the most part, get what you pay for on that one.
Yeah, and we face the same thing here. I live in Arkansas, in Northwest Arkansas, where the University of Arkansas is located, and we faced the same kind of thing when Bobby Petrino left under tough circumstances. John L. Smith came in as an interim, and then they also have these huge lists of people that they were going to hire, and Brett Bielema wasn't on any of them, right? None of them. And all of a sudden, they announced Brett Bielema, but Bielema came here out of the Big Ten because the Big Ten doesn't pay their coaches. I mean, he made it clear. He was like, I'm coming here because in the SEC, I can pay my coaches. He wasn't so concerned about himself getting paid, although he did get paid very handsomely, but
very well.
But he was looking, but he was also getting paid pretty well at Wisconsin as a head coach. It's the assistants, and so I think that's. I ask you that because I think that hurts some of these Big Ten programs from being able to get the top. I'm talking about the Big Ten programs outside of Ohio State and Michigan, okay? Because it still is. I'm sorry, it still is the Big Two.
Yeah.
In terms of money, in terms of talent, Penn State with Wisconsin.
Because Penn State is paying James Franklin like $5 million now.
Okay, they're back up there. Yeah, they're back up there, but it's not pervasive throughout the conference in terms of salaries, right? Right. I mean, if you look at Arkansas, Brett Bielema is making 3.5 or close to 4, and in Arkansas it's 4th or 5th in the SEC West, right? I mean, you don't see Purdue and Illinois and Indiana paying their coaches that kind of money.
I mean,
right? I mean,
Lovey's making 21 million over 6 years, or 29. I have two. Chicago yeah. All right, I can do this. 21 million over 6 years.
So that's 3.5. Okay, so that's 3.5. So he's up there, but that's Lovie Smith.
Yeah,
right. I mean, that's a name
with a Super Bowl appearance.
Same results.
Yeah, the whole thing. But my point being though that I'm not sure what his assistants are getting though, because Bielema left Wisconsin. I can't. And the assistants are the guys that drive a college program. It's not the head coach, because the head coach isn't recruiting. The head coach isn't in people's homes. The head coach isn't, out there doing all that stuff. It's the assistants. And you look at Nick Saban. One of the reasons he's successful at Alabama is, one reason is he's a good coach, but look who he has around him. I mean, he has ex-head coaches at almost every coordinator and important position, plus consultant, plus whatever, right?
Yeah.
If you get fired as a head coach, your first call is to Nick Saban and go, hey, can I come consult with you for a year? And he's probably going to go, right? He's probably going to go, yeah, come on down. I got an extra $400,000 laying around. I'll just throw it your way. Which is, I mean, it's true, right? That's not a flippant statement. So yeah, the reason I asked that question was, though, Greg, is just to get a feel for where the fan base thinks their expectations are with the University of Nebraska in 2017, because this isn't 1992. This isn't 1982, right? This is 2017. It's been a while since Nebraska was really relevant on the national stage.
I don't know if they all know that.
No, they definitely don't.
They don't know it's been 15 years.
About kind of the pay, right? But the pay, as it relates to kind of the assistant pay with Nebraska versus some of these other Big Ten teams, is Nebraska is on par. Like, their assistant pool is actually right on par with the Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan States of the world. Actually, a little bit higher than I think Penn State, Michigan State. I think they're third behind Ohio State and Michigan, but that's because Michigan and Ohio State, I believe, both have multiple million-dollar coordinators, kind of like the SEC does. Yeah. It's just strange that it's like they realized in the middle of the Mike Riley tenure that, hey, we need to be paying real money to assistant coaches. Like, they had not done that at all in the past. But it's like all of a sudden the light bulb came on, and hey, we're going to pay Dante Williams, our defensive back, $400K because he's one of the best young up-and-coming recruiters in the country. We're going to pay our wide receivers coach, Keith Williams, because he's also a great recruiter and a really well-known coach as well. We're going to pay him $400K, and we're going to pay Bob Diaco $800K, which is the most they've ever paid an assistant ever in the history of the school. Like, they realized that. but it's whether or not the head man actually has the right ingredients to take them forward.
Yeah.
And that was my next question is, okay, so if Mike Riley isn't the guy, who's a guy that Nebraska would have their eye on to bring in, whether it's a top-notch assistant from somewhere else or a hotshot head coach at the lower level that they think could make an impact in Nebraska?
Here's what, if they're going to make the change, I'm not saying that they're going to make the change this year because I really don't think they will, unless, I got to put the caveat on this, right, unless they end up winning, say, 3 games, they get into that nightmare scenario you were talking about before I came on, where they only win a couple of more games. If that happens, then what I would do if I were the athletic director is I would look down Stark Vegas, down in Mississippi, and I'd go get Dan Mullen. There's only so much that he's going to be able to do at Mississippi State in the SEC West, button heads Nick Saban every year. He's proven that he's one of the best young coaches in America. He's only 45. Like, I would go and get him, which is who they probably should have gotten in the first place when they hired Riley back in 2015. So that's who I would definitely target first and foremost.
Yeah, because Dan's probably done, and I'm in SEC country, so I follow nationally all the teams, but specifically SEC and ACC are where I focus more of my activity. And Dan's probably done as much he's going to do at Mississippi State. I mean, that win over LSU Saturday night, that was a beatdown of a pretty good team. I mean, it remains to be seen this early in the season how good LSU is actually going to be. But that was a hell of a win. And he's beaten Alabama at Mississippi State. But Mississippi State is a lot like the Arkansas and some of the other teams. You have to build up to a crescendo of 3 good recruiting classes, and you end up with 1 or 2 really good years, and then you go back down again.
Yeah,
Nebraska, I think you could maintain that with the name of Nebraska. You can't do it at Mississippi State, so I agree with you. That would be a great hire. But he's going to be on a lot of people's list at the end of this season because I think he's going somewhere. I don't think he's going to stay there. I think he's going somewhere. Hell, he could go to Notre Dame. If Brian Kelly doesn't turn that thing around, that's a job that's going to be coveted by a number of guys.
Well, up until that Hail Mary pass this weekend, I mean, McElwain is. People been trying to push him out. It seems like the offensive guy can't get offense going. But I don't know. Dan Mullen seems to be the first guy to mind, like you're saying, for a lot of teams. What were you saying, Greg?
Oh, no, I was just saying that Notre Dame job, if that comes open, will be an interesting one. But I'm curious to see, when we talk just because I'm here, we talk a lot about where Nebraska fits into the landscape. I'd be curious to see where Notre Dame would go next for a coach, too, because they've got their own unique set of circumstances up there because it's harder to get kids into school up there. Also, Notre Dame, we talk here a lot about people holding on to tradition and not knowing if it's 1995 still. And Notre Dame has that problem even more so. Yeah. So I'd just be super curious to see where they went. But at the same time, I thought when Brian Kelly was hired there, I thought he was a home run hire, as did a lot of people. So I'm still surprised that that's not working at a higher level.
I'll tell you, if I'm Notre Dame, I'll tell you the guy I go after, and that's David Shaw at Stanford, because Stanford faces the same recruiting challenges, and Stanford's been able to get it done. He's done a really good job there. I mean, a really good job. At a school that's not traditionally a football school. They did have John that way, but they've had some other guys. But so that's the kind of guy you want to go after, a guy that's faced the same challenges in recruiting. I think that would be an interesting hire. But I agree with you, Greg. I don't think Nebraska's going to pull the trigger this year on Mike Riley. Is this his 3rd season?
Yeah, this is just year 3, and the big thing, the big reason why I don't think that they'll pull the trigger on him is not actually because it's only his 3rd year. It's because the athletic director handpicks him, right? So following sports as well as I do, when a guy handpicks you, he's not going to let you go until he is absolutely forced, and by forced I mean he's going to be on his way out the door too. So if Mike Riley goes, Sean Eichler has to go too. So he's going to hold on to him as long as humanly possible. acceptable. Unless, again, here's my asterisk, unless it's a 3 or 4 win season, then all bets are off because that'll be completely unacceptable. You can't have a year in which you have Arkansas State, Northern Illinois, Rutgers, Illinois, all on the schedule, and then you only win 3 or 4 of those games. Like that's crazy at Nebraska. You could not have that.
You can't.
I don't. That being said, I don't believe that disaster scenario is going to happen. I think they're going to get bowl eligible. They're probably going to right this ship a little bit. Who knows? Because the rest of the schedule isn't all that difficult. Purdue, Northwestern, Minnesota. You're probably going to win those games.
Hey,
you've got to be Rutgers.
Purdue. Remember the last time Nebraska went to Purdue, they lost.
Yeah, and that was one of the, and that's crazy because if we start stacking up the most embarrassing Mike Riley losses, the Northern Illinois one is not the worst one. It's that Purdue. Hold on. See, the reason this is part of why Mike Riley's tenure has been so interesting because I could throw another game in there. That Illinois game that they lost was pretty bad as well.
Yeah, they lost to Illinois the year that they fired the coach. They lost to them, and they said, our coach wasn't even good enough. Fire him.
Yeah, but I'm gonna get down to X's and O's and thinking about not just X's and O's. It appears to me, and I do watch Nebraska. I like Nebraska, but it doesn't appear that his teams are prepared the way they should be prepared to play a football game. And I'm going to put that out to you and see if that's been something that's been a concern among the fan base of Nebraska, because it doesn't look like they're ready or prepared to play the opponent that they're getting ready to face.
Yes, you would be spot on with that one because I think the number is 14 of the last 15 games or something crazy like that where Nebraska has trailed at halftime. The similar stats of the other team scoring first, and it all points to them not being prepared to play. And that was actually a big topic of conversation at his Monday press conference this week, Mike Riley, where there were a lot of questions pointed towards, hey, what's with the slow starts? Why are you guys so sluggish to start games? And basically, he went with coach speak, but he also threw in there that they were going to reevaluate kind of what they were doing Monday through Friday to make sure that they were optimizing how they prepared, which is, I guess, good that he's willing to recognize it and change. Bad that we're 3 years into his tenure here and they're still having to tweak that. And it's not as if this is his first head coaching job. Mike Riley's been coaching forever. That should be something that he has kind of under control at this point. But yeah, no, you're spot on with that one. They definitely are not ready to play and basically on an every game situation.
Yeah, and because I look at some coaching staffs where they kind of go, okay, we're going to feel this out and make an adjustment at halftime, which some teams do. My team, Virginia Tech, tends to make really good halftime adjustments. They just tend to do that. I mean, they outscored Arkansas 24-0 in the second half last year in the bowl game. They came back against East Carolina and just shellacked them. They made a great adjustment against Clemson in the AC Championship game and almost came back in that game. But that whole preparation thing it struck me. And interesting enough, I had not known that about the press conference, but just watching the team, I had the same kind of question: is, wow, you guys don't seem to be ready to take on the scheme or whatever it is that the other team's throwing at you. And for Mike Riley, you're right. He's been around for a long time. I mean, I would have expected better from him. I'm sure that's why Nebraska hired him. That's one reason I will say, if they really don't win more than 4 games or 5 games, they're going to be out looking. But the question now, my follow-on question to you, Greg, is: do you think they can get the guy they want based on what's happened recently in Nebraska football? And that's a big question. That's an important.
It is a really important question because that's where it gets tricky. Is that once you start kind of hot potato and coaches around and you get to be known as a place that is really quick to pull the trigger on a guy and not really give guys a chance to build their recruiting up and to really get in place what they're trying to get in place, you do get a stigma with other coaches, especially other big time coaches that you would want to take your job and to come to your school. So that's
90 seconds.
And I don't know. I don't know if a guy like a Dan Mullen or someone like that would be turned off by a coach getting ran out after 3 years if he was, say, okay, he went 5-7 the first year, he went 9-4 second year, and then say you go 4-8 or 3-9. Like, would a coach really be turned off by that, or would they say, man, he was just a disaster with all those resources and all that fan base passing?
60 seconds.
I don't know how that would go.
I would tend to think it's the latter, right? Because it's not like Nebraska doesn't have money, doesn't have recruiting cachet. He just failed. I mean, if he goes 4-8 this year, to me it'll be like, oh man, you just tanked that. And I don't think any coach would go. I'm not sure that even Nebraska among the media would be criticized for cutting him loose. I certainly wouldn't be critical of them.
I think that if you were like, see, and I think you're right though. That we talk it out a little bit, because I think that if Nebraska would say 7-5, right, and they cut him loose after that, then you could say,
a different story.
Yeah, that's a different story, and that maybe they panicked and hey, they kept the recruiting class together. They do have a good recruiting class, and then hey, we could see what he'll do.
10 seconds.
But instead they pulled the plug. I don't know if I want to go there. Yeah, I could see that being different.
Yeah, because if I'm a coach and I see somebody get fired after two bowl seasons in 3 years, and Bo Pelini didn't leave things in great shape, right? It wasn't like Mike Riley inherited this in fantastic place. That's where Dan Mullen might go, I'm not sure I want to do that. But if they do, I don't think I think they're going to go 6-6 or 7-5 to be bowl eligible, and because the 3 losses we talked about, the Iowa, actually they can beat Iowa. So the Penn State, Wisconsin, those are going to be tough games for Nebraska, at least from what we've seen. The rest of the games they can probably win them. So we'll see. But it's just fun conversation. But because Nebraska is one of those places, right? I mean, you start naming the elite football programs in the country over the last 30, 40 years, and Nebraska is one of them. They've won 2 national championships since Penn State and Notre Dame have won their last one. So it's a big deal. I mean, this is a big program. And so it's interesting to see what the reaction is there in Lincoln about all of this, because I'm sure knee-jerk reaction after Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, for sure. But they like Mike Riley did say that we've earned all the talk that's been out there about us, and they know they've got to go out and do better on Saturday. I don't want to see what happens if they somehow lose this game of records on Saturday, because then you really will see.
It's funny.
Hell break loose out there.
I was talking to a former
last year.
I was talking to a former player yesterday. A former Nebraska player. He's a fitness trainer now. But he's like, yeah, I didn't see the end of the game, and it's nice not being there because they're not tweeting at you, angry tweets. So he said it's love hate. You love it, but you really hate it when you get the unlofty criticism on social media. So it's he wasn't envious at all of the situation.
Well, let me throw this out there for you guys. Think back a year ago, Washington State lost their first 2 games, I believe, to Portland State and Rutgers. I think it was. I think that's who they lost to. Okay.
Yeah, they had
the first 2 games of the season.
Italian kid as a quarterback.
And
good kid from the neighborhood.
Yeah, and they came back. Okay. Yeah, they lost last year. No, they lost to Eastern Washington and Boise State the first 2 weeks of the season. Eastern Washington being an FCS school, by the way. Right. They came back to win their next 8 games in a row, including wins over Oregon, Stanford, UCLA. Okay, so I'm thinking this Nebraska team could be a similar kind of story, right? Because they do have talent. They have a pretty good coach. So we're all. But the problem is they have those. Of course, Washington State ran into Colorado and Washington at the end of the season and lost both those games, but they did make a run. So, part of me says, yeah, Nebraska can still make that run. They really can get it together. And by the way, Northern Illinois is not a bad football team. They are an FBS school. They're in the upper tier of the MAC, and so it wasn't like they lost to an FCS school. So we'll see. So, I agree with you, Greg. I think Mike Wiley's probably going to be the coach at the end of the season. So, but we'll see how that's changed.
Yeah, it's just that, confidence just isn't high around here right now based on them losing that game to Northern. Because even though Northern is in the upper echelon of the MAC, and, they've gone to a BCS game, or what was a BCS game more recently than Nebraska has, and multiple other schools as well that are big-time teams.
With Garoppolo, right?
That being said, you still can't lose. Right. You still can't lose. Or with Jordan Lynch, actually.
Oh, Lynch,
You still can't lose to them at home when you were a double-digit favorite over them. Like, you just can't do that. And now it does. Like, it's weird because that schedule, which was kind of manageable because you got Ohio State and Wisconsin in back-to-back weeks, but at home, and maybe you split those two and find a way to split the Penn State and Iowa game. Now, a couple of those are must-win. Like, essentially, that Wisconsin game, if you want to make any noise, that Wisconsin game is a must-win game for them this season.
In Iowa, right? Because all of a sudden, your margin for error is kind of slim right now, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about, right? All of a sudden, your margin for error goes from, we can lose the games we're supposed to lose, but we got to win the games they've lost 2 games they were supposed to win, and so all of a sudden that it becomes kind of a. Now they do have Wisconsin, Ohio State at home. Those are pluses, and they got Iowa at home. So the schedule's actually favorable.
How is having Ohio State on the schedule a plus?
Well, no, but but it's at home.
I guess
it's at home. It's not the horse.
Hey, it's at home, and they got revenge on the mind after having 70 put on them last year or whatever. I try to block that out.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, we shouldn't talk about that, Greg. I bury that one deep. And the 2 appearances to the Big Ten championship. So it's crazy because, like, Nebraska, when we entered into the Big Ten, we're like, we're going to win the West every year. This will be a walk, right? And it's like we've been there twice and got throttled both times. And yeah,
the thing is, hey, you want to really feel bad. It's not just the Big Ten West and how bad that's been, and thinking that they were going to win that every year. Think about when they were in the Big 12 North. Like, people thought they were going to win that, or they should win that more than they did too. Like, if for some reason Nebraska just cannot find a way to win these crappy divisions, they should be winning way more often.
Yeah, and that was a lot worse because Colorado wasn't playing football anymore. Iowa State was still serving. I think they were a community college team. Kansas, and then Missouri. Like, that was the division. So they played one legitimate team every third year because Missouri only serviced teams like every third year. And it's like, that was the
right.
Like, really? Jesus. Did you has there been a lot of buzz about Jason Peters' comments? Has he kind of fanned the flames?
Right, I didn't even see his comments. Which like inflammatory comment did he make this
Which one? He kind of does that. That's sort of his thing. He does inflammatory comments. WHBL. I'll send you over the link. He's basically saying that Riley's.
Oh, is it that bad?
Yeah.
So, guys, Matthew, it's been great tonight. Greg's been great talking to you. I've got to jog off of here now. But yeah, it's been great. It's a great show tonight, Matthew. Mike was great with the betting stuff, and Greg, you've been awesome with the insight from the Nebraska side. I know that Matthew's enjoyed that. So enjoyed it a lot. What's that?
I said Greg the champ.
I'm laughing if you're trying to sneak in there that the MAC is where it's
I told you.
Yeah, well, there you go. For the
banner.
MAC. Okay.
Waving the banner.
Yeah, okay. All right, guys. Matthew, I'll talk to you. I'll be texting you this week, and I'll talk to you next week. So
appreciate it.
Enjoyed it. Talk to you guys later.
Kevin Chris.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye. Hey, bye.
Kevin has he authors. He has the first part of his trilogy. He has P.K. Frazier novels. But it's like the historic novels. All the events actually happened, but the character was made up. I was reading his first book, and I've read them all three, but when I was reading the first book, there's a part, I think it's about halfway into the book, and PK Frazier is calling a game in the Bob Devaney Sports Center. And this was before I realized it was like a historic novel concept. So he's talking about Tyronn Lue and Danny Nee upsetting Kansas in Lincoln. And I'm like, I was there. I remember that. And my hair stood up. I'm like, is this a real guy? And I don't know who the hell he is. So I like Googled PK Frazier, and all I could find is like his website and stuff. And I was like, Kevin, I know this is a dumb question. And tonight it kind of seems like this is becoming a trend. But yet I asked him, I was like, he's a character. He's not real, right? He's like, yeah, he's a character. It's like and he explained the whole historic novel base. So it was kind of interesting the way it worked out. So okay, I see it here. Okay. But Greg Smith, ladies and gentlemen, he had to take off too. So we got about 30 minutes or so left in the show, and we'll steer back on to college football and head over to the phone lines. Let's see, we got looks like we have David in Atlanta. How you doing tonight, David?
What's going on, man? I was listening to all that Nebraska talk.
Yep. You missed the part where I said it's dumb that Miami canceled the game. But anyways.
Yeah, y'all didn't get on till late.
Yeah. I didn't talk about that. I didn't have power, so I just did like a Periscope, like a 15-minute Periscope on it. Didn't even give it a name. It was just a rant. That's all.
I feel you. So you got power now?
Yeah, we got it back Sunday. We drove back Sunday. We're like, God, I hope we have power, because we hadn't got a text from Duke. And we pulled up, and evidently my wife or my kids went and turned on like just about every light in the house. So we come back, and the house is like illuminated like Christmas, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
you're lucky you had to blow a circuit.
I know, right? That's the thing is, I unplugged everything. It's just the lights were on. Okay. So the TVs were all unplugged, because I was like, man, when this stuff comes back on, I don't know what's going to come through those, you know. Yeah, I don't want to get a surge and ruin everything, you know. So I unplugged all the electronics. My wife's like, why would you do that? So it doesn't blow it up? Oh, that can happen?
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, it can.
And it's Florida. Our power grid isn't that great anyways. So it probably would.
Yeah. I didn't know Duke, because Duke is also in Orlando, because my dad didn't have power also.
Yeah.
So when I was coming up, it was Florida Power. But I guess it got bought out by Duke. No. I think they privatized. I guess they privatized it.
They still have Florida Power. It's still Florida Power, Tico, and Duke. Those are the three main ones in Central Florida.
So they let Duke come in and buy some of it. Because there was no Duke when I was living. Like when I was living in Orlando, there was no thing as Duke.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was all Florida. It was all, like I said, it was all FPL.
And then Pinellas, they allowed one other company too. I can't remember who it is off the top of my head. So they'll have But Pinellas has one extra, because they allow Tico and Tampa. There's one extra in Pinellas now. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but most people have power back now. There was a couple people I saw just got power back, but most of those people are down by, by Cape Coral, Fort Myers, Naples, where they got smashed by the hurricane.
Yeah.
Even the people in Polk County got it back. I think everybody in Polk County got it back within a week, and they got hit by part of the eye. So, I think the cell towers is what took the biggest hit.
Yeah. And I think I don't know. It just seems to be a long time to go without power. But I guess they didn't feel like they had to rush it.
Well, no, it's just that everything is a wood pole here, and it's flat as shit. So
Yeah.
straight line winds just knock it all over. And you know how the cities and counties and municipalities are about taking care of cutting back branches and stuff on all these old ass trees. Yeah, we lost power at 8:03 on Sunday. The storm didn't even get to us till 2 a.m. Monday morning. Like, we lost it early. It's like, I think we lost.
Okay, I see.
Irony is, the house we lived in Tampa didn't lose it. Didn't lose power. Like, it's like there was a branch in the yard. That's it. Like, nothing happened there.
Yeah.
Like, nothing happened. So
when y'all lost it, was it bad weather, or was it just calm?
No, it was windy. I mean, one of those, because there was those bands of like, there was like one strong band that was circling around Irma that was like, had the heavier, like the 75-mile-an-hour winds. It was like category. It was like the center, when the center was category 3 or 4, the band outside was like a category 1. So we got hit by one of the stronger bands. So it was actually stronger, I think, from what someone told me. It was stronger. That band was stronger than what the eye was when it got to us, because it already went through so much land. Like, it was like a category 1 tropical storm by the time it got up here. It lost a lot of energy quick.
Yeah.
So, but
okay, well, let me ask you: when you lived in Tampa, have y'all ever lost electricity because of the rain? When you was living there?
Yes, but because we've had lightning hit the generator.
Okay. I mean,
3
like
times.
In Orlando, that's common to have the same thing. Like in Orlando, if you have a really bad lightning storm, it's like common for that shit to put and it doesn't like necessarily hit the pole, or I forgot what the name of the thing is that generates electricity, but it's like it necessarily doesn't hit the transformer, but it's like I think it's like the electricity in the air shorts out the transformer.
Yeah, see,
and that's something that's really common, like in Orlando.
Yeah, we would, that happened. Yeah, just like we lost power for like, it flickered out and then came back on like an hour later or something. That happened a lot. Like we come home I come home from work all the time. And I'm like, shit, got to reset the clocks again. Like one time I remember I was so pissed because I just neglected setting them because I'm busy as shit. And I set it that morning before I left, and I come back and I'm like, shit, now I got to do it again. Put it off that long. Finally made time to set. And that's the thing is, like, people underestimate how long it takes to go through a house and set clocks. Like, Jesus. I mean, if you have clocks in your house,
you got to get them battery on.
Well, I'm saying you got microwave, you got stove.
Yeah.
So those two. And then usually I have one that's like in the bedroom, and there's one on the coffee maker. So that's 4. The ones on the walls obviously aren't affected. They're battery. And I think the batteries are dead on the 2 that are on the wall, to be honest with you. Now that I'm thinking about it, they're dead. But it's okay. I look at my watch or my phone anyways, so. But anyways,
well, it's good y'all. It's good y'all made it, man. I know the merchants, everybody made a lot of money off that storm.
Oh yeah.
Which was a part of it. But people that live in Florida, and y'all self included, people got to start being more prepared, because it's not like people don't live in, like, people live like y'all live in Florida. It shouldn't be a rush to get water and shit just because it's crazy.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? I just think people, this mentality, like, the storm hits and everybody wants to hit the store at the same time. Like, y'all live in Florida, you're supposed to have it. Like, when I was growing up, we had drop stuff, like, sitting in the pantry just in case we lost power and electricity.
Let me put it this way.
Just sitting up, just, because we're living in Florida.
When I hit the store to buy stuff, I bought plywood because I was planning on potentially board. I bought 7 pieces of plywood, which I thought were 12, like 11, 12 bucks a piece, because that's what I remember what plywood cost. I paid 28 something a piece for plywood.
Exactly.
And I'm like, I got. Oh yeah, so this is what I literally. I was so mad. I walked out $500. I spent at Home Depot preparing for the storm. But let me tell you this. My Jewish side took like almost everything back. Like even the screws they used to screw in the wood, I took them. It's $16 a box for screws.
Yeah.
I took them back. They took them. Home Depot is like the Walmart of home, like repairs. They take it all back. You don't even, and they can look up the receipt and stuff. It's much easier. But I took those back. I bought 10 buckets. They were like $3.50 a piece. 25 bags of sands, $3.50 a piece. I mean, you see, it just adds up. I took the sand back. I got the buckets. They still got water in them. I prepared enough. We still had water when we came home Sunday. Like we didn't even use all the water. Like I started filling up water from my tap because we recycle. So I had a whole bunch of juice bottles from like Simply Orange Juice or Minute Maid or whatever the hell we got. Juice bottles. They're plastic. I just rinse them out. Put some soap and clean it. And I fill it up with water. I was filling up at the tap. We got 4 cases of water. But my wife, we would normally get like 1 or 2 a month anyways, and she takes them to work. I just drink from the refrigerator because water comes out there and it's cold, so it's right by the ice. It's convenient for me, so I just was filling all the bottles up there, filtered, putting them in the refrigerator. Like I realized that as long as I have power, I have water because I have a well. Now, if I was in Tampa, I wouldn't even went and bought water because it's city water. You just turn on the faucet, even when you don't have power.
Yeah.
The only time it turns off is when you don't pay your bill. That's it.
Yeah.
Irma's not shutting your water off. So.
I don't get it. Even if it does, like you say, the storm is coming, so you can fill a trash can up full of water.
Yeah. See, that's the other thing that was about this hurricane that was annoying as shit for me. Like, it was the anticipation of this. I'm like, shit, is it not here yet? When is Irma? This bitch is late as hell. Where is she at? Like, because people are like, because we got hit up this way. Again, Gainesville is still an hour north of us. They were going to play that game at noon on Saturday. The storm didn't even hit. Like I said, we didn't even start getting the rain till Sunday evening, like Sunday around 2-3 o'clock here in where I'm at. And that's an hour away. So they could have played the game at noon and been perfectly fine. I get cancel it. It doesn't matter. But, I'm just, that's all I'm saying is like, it took forever to get here. I think a lot of people, and between that and the news, like what killed me, they're calling it a nuclear hurricane. Now, I'm not a meteorologist, but I'm pretty sure there's no such thing as a nuclear hurricane. Like, how does that even work? Is it raining down nuclear waste? I mean, how is it a nuclear hurricane? Is there a risk of it exploding? I mean, I really don't get the whole thing. They kept calling it nuclear hurricane, and a lot of the hyperbole behind it is just frustrated crap out of me.
I mean, they're trying to get people to watch. They're trying to get the viewers to watch the show or to watch that particular broadcast as opposed to others. But hurricanes are dangerous. People should take them seriously. It's just the problem is that they've gone away from hurricane preparedness into hurricane panicking. But when I was coming up, you was prepared for the hurricane. You had the flashlights, you had the batteries, you had the candles, you had all that stuff just sitting around just because you knew that you were in an area that was acceptable to bad storms. Mm-hmm. Now it's like you don't have any of that, and then when the storm comes, everybody just runs out and tries to buy it all at the same time.
Exactly.
It's just crazy. You know,
I mean, I have, because I said, you know, being without power at home is like camping at home. You know, just I don't have to use a tent or a sleeping bag. But I mean, I already have all that stuff. I actually have a hurricane, or not, I call it a hurricane flashlight. It's just the little one of those flashlights that you wind up to give it power. It doesn't need a battery. It doesn't need a battery. You know, a storm flashlight. I mean, it doesn't last that long, like, you know, 15 minutes or whatever. But you just crank it up and it goes again. Like I have one of those. I mean, I had a radio that has batteries, but the thing is, like, the radio towers got hit pretty bad, so didn't make any sense to use the radio. Like, you weren't getting anything.
Yeah.
Like, even now, a week later, sometimes some stations are just very crackly, or they're not really coming in well. So I'm sure there's some fixing that they still have to do with their radio towers. But yeah, I don't know. It wasn't. I'm thankful. Again, the hyperbole probably prepared some people to where they actually did prepare. Like, the models were messing me up. Like, at one point in time, it said it was going to be a 4. Then it said it was a 1. Then it was going to be a 3. Like, one model had it being a 3 all the way into like Atlanta. I'm like, Atlanta's not going to get hit with a Category 3 hurricane. You guys are nuts. I don't believe you. I don't care what your spaghetti, whatever the shit says. That's not happening. I'm calling bullshit on that. So I'm thinking, like, but it could, maybe it is a category. Maybe the 5 stays strong and it just rips along close like Matthew did, kind of like what Irma did along Cuba. Maybe it just goes up that way and then it turns and we get hit with a Category 3 or 4 here. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, anything over 100 miles an hour is, you know, it's Category 2. 100 miles an hour is pretty damn fast. You can put pretty much anything through a window at 100 miles an hour. Doesn't matter what it is. So I decided to, you know, to board some things up, which sucked because I couldn't take the boards back after that. I tried. They wouldn't let me.
Yeah. I mean, that's the smartest. That's the smartest thing. I mean, I understand having to buy plywood to board up.
Yeah.
But as far as like food and essential items like that, you're supposed to have that shit sitting in your house because you live in Florida. But you live in Central and South Florida. I can see North Florida is different. Jacksonville can be different. But Central and South Florida, you're supposed to have all that stuff already just laying up because you're in an area that gets a lot of precipitation anyway.
Yeah. But that's the one thing. That's why I got the sandbags. Because I was worried because we were getting so much rain because we got rain from Harvey. Because when it blew through, we got a bunch of rain from Harvey. And then we were starting to get some of the outer bands of Irma that were like weak, light rains, but it's consistent rain. And then it just stopped raining. And then Saturday, when I was actually putting up the last part of the boards, or the plywood, it was started pouring. Like it didn't go. It wasn't like, oh, sprinkle. No, it just like, and I'm like out there with a screw gun and plywood and a metal ladder, you know, all the stuff you want to be outside in a thunderstorm in. Screwing stuff up to the side. It just came out of nowhere. But I waited till Saturday because I'm like, I want to see what happens when it gets closer to land. Because if it's hitting land Saturday there in the morning, it's going to be at least till the afternoon before we see anything. And we're not going to get probably the storm till sometime Sunday, you know? And it was just, it kind of ended up going that way, but it was a tropical. I think it was like a 1 or a tropical storm by the time it got here. So, but it's so flat and things are so old, and you know, like you can tell where that they put the money. Like the villagers, they didn't really feel it. Like even now, there's some people around the community that are kind of irritated with some of the villagers because it's like it didn't even happen. Like they're talking to people in stores, like this one lady, she left. And she didn't lose power at her house in the villages. But she left. She went to Maryland, and she's like calling the nail salon every day. And she comes into the nail salon angry at the guy that owns the salon. Like, I've been calling to make this nail appointment every day for a full week. You guys got to fix your phones. And he's like, we just got power back yesterday. It's kind of like, I went in there with my wife. Obviously, I don't get my toes or nails done, but anyways. And he like looked at me, and then he looked at my wife, and I looked at my wife, and we both looked at him, and we're like, this lady. It's that feeling when you're around somebody that you're just like, they're way more privileged than I am in a lot of ways. She was completely oblivious to the fact that everybody lost power around the villages, but the villages really didn't. So she didn't feel the storm. She couldn't appreciate not having electricity. One, because her house never lost it. Two, she left the state. So things are up and running and going now. So I saw Florida or Miami and Florida State decided to postpone their game. I don't know why. Is there something happening?
I think everybody's still trying to get. No, I mean, I just think people are still trying to get everything situated.
Wow, it's amazing how much. It's like, because it's crazy. Because I was looking down all these schedules earlier tonight, and just the amount of games. I mean, even like the first week of college football. Harvey was in Texas. So, UTEP, I think it was a University of UTEP. It's in San Antonio. Texas El Paso. Yeah, they had canceled or postponed the game. I was just looking down at today while Kevin and Greg were talking about football. But it's crazy how it's just kind of wreaked havoc this year. I've been wondering, and I don't know if there's anything to do with this. I wonder if the eclipse had anything to do with this. Like if it changed the weather. Because there has to be a significant amount of gravity that had to be involved with it.
I mean, it could be, or it just could be one of those years where you just get a lot of storms just come that year. Or it could be, some people say this shit is like man-made, like they got a machine up there like in Alaska that can create storms. So you don't never really know what it is. Or like I said, it could just be a bad year for storms.
You watching Jesse Ventura? Was that wasn't it Jesse Ventura?
No, people say
because he showed up. I remember. There was like 2 episodes. He did a conspiracy theory. I watched like 2 episodes of it because I don't buy so much into conspiracy theories, but they're entertaining as hell to watch and listen to, but he like showed up at the gates of this laboratory where they have these antennas and stuff that can change the electrical magnetic field using the aurora borealis or some shit to create storms. Yeah. So I was like,
yeah, that's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was.
But you never know what the cause of it is.
Yeah.
But the issue is that we can't. Yeah. So it could be anything. Like I said, it just could be a bad year for storms because there's another one supposedly in the moving west also. I think it's just getting ready to hit like Puerto Rico or something.
Yeah, Jose is supposed to hit is going to hit it's supposed to hit the East Coast there, but Maria is supposed to hit potentially tonight, and that's a Category 5. And then there's one right behind her too, I think. I have to look at.
Yeah, so you just don't know. Like, it just could be a bad year. It could be like the worst year for storms, like in 100 years or some shit. You just never know. You know what I'm saying? Just things happen that, things happen as nature. So things happen. So this is really what it is. So this is why it's about, you got to be prepared if you live in this area. But what people really have to face is that you start talking about South Florida. In reality, people probably shouldn't be living down there. And so when you have this run of storms, it displaces a lot of people.
Yeah, I saw a satellite map.
What they see what I'm saying?
And there was like a good 100 miles in from the coast. Like when the eye had passed over Key West and the Glades area, like the Glades basically showed up as the Gulf on a satellite map right as Irma went over it. Like it was kind of a crazy picture. And you see it side by side, before Irma, after Irma.
So, and it could be a byproduct of, like they say, global warming. Mm-hmm. Well, this might start becoming a new trend, where every few years you have a really, really bad run of storms. Because like I said, Miami already has issues with flooding without the storms. So they got to figure out what they're going to do about that, because they have major flood issues that they're trying to compete with. Like, they're trying to defeat them with technology, but if they keep having this run of storms, they're not going to be able to do it. So you got to ask yourself, can people really live in these areas? Same thing with Key West. Can you really live in Key West if they're going to keep having storms like this? Because there's no way to protect yourself from it.
Yeah, because Key West is it's only like 4 feet or so, 5 feet up from sea level, like normal high tide. Yeah. So it's not like it is a. It's basically like Davis Island in Tampa. That's the Keys.
Exactly.
They're just like that. You know?
The Keys. And so there's no way to combat a bad storm coming there, even if you build a really sturdy house. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? It's just like it doesn't matter. And so you got to ask yourself, is it really appropriate for humans to live in that area now if this is the new reality? Because for years that was like prime real estate. You can live in the Keys, like some of the most expensive real estate in the country is down there. But now you got to ask yourself, do you even want to fucking live down there now? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because you can lose everything. You can build a $500,000 house or build $1 million house. And even with insurance, that storm comes through. What can happen is that once the insurance company classifies that as a high-risk area, it's going to be next to impossible to get insurance. If you do, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. So it's going to be really cheaper to live somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? So that's the deal. Because in reality, human beings are not supposed to be living in South Florida. They drained all of South Florida so humans can live there. You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't supposed to. It's like millions of people are not supposed to be living in South Florida. That's just not how the state is designed. It's designed for people to live in Central and North Florida. But everybody wants to live down south because the weather's so nice. So they had to drain everything to let people live down there. So the byproduct of it is, when you get a bad storm, that shit's just gonna flood. And you in a storm, you in an area that deals with a lot of storms, because everything swinging through the Gulf is gonna hit your ass.
Yeah, I'm just looking.
So
11 p.m.
So they got to figure something out.
St. Croix, so just south.
Yeah. St. Croix.
St. Croix.
Yeah, St. Croix.
Like the outer parts.
I heard like was it Barbuda? I heard Barbuda got totaled.
Yeah, Barbuda got totaled about the last one. Like, there is like no standing structure.
Exactly.
At all.
Exactly. There's like nothing there.
Yeah.
Kevin, you know what I'm saying? And so we got to understand. Yeah. So
Kevin had a property down there. He was talking earlier in the show about that. He has people that were down there. He did at one point down in that area, Saint Martin, who got hit really bad too. Okay. And he's like, it's crazy because it's like there's buildings that have literally been there forever, and they just thought nothing could knock it over, and one of them had like 100 and some people in it. So it was crazy. It did get knocked over. So it's kind of that thing. It's like, wow. Think about any hope that you have in a situation just being drained from you. Like something you knew to be fact that, kind of like a presidential election, like this guy will never get elected, but then he was, But anyways, kind of like that, like this structure will not fall over. It hasn't fallen over forever. It's impenetrable. Kind of imagine that's probably what the people thought on the Titanic as it sunk.
Anything, but a storm, there's never a building that can be made so strong that a storm can't demolish it.
Yeah, that's what they really say. Like when they say it's the heaviest hurricane tested, it's like tested up to 150 miles an hour. Up to.
Exactly.
They don't know what it does after that. So as of right now, almost the entire island is covered with Hurricane Maria. The eye is just over St. Croix. St. Croix. And the most outer bands of the storm are hitting the Dominican Republic.
Yeah. So, and the issue with like an island like Barbuda, same thing with Puerto Rico, is that you get displaced because of that storm, and you may not have an opportunity to come back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because what happened is developers will come in and redevelop it, and then the price of the property will be so high now you can't get back in.
Yeah. See, that's what I think. I was like, wow, I was just thinking that earlier in the show. I'm like, Barbuda being leveled like that, people are going to come back in. They're going to, they're going to build resorts there that are like very heavy wind strong resorts. People are going to lose their property because
that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, because investors are going to buy
the developers have been praying for this kind of storm because it eventually allows you to get people off the property without you having to go in and do it. So they're going to leave. You can come in, you know what I'm saying, and redevelop it. And then those people that left, they never gonna be able to get back in there because they won't be able to afford it. You see what I'm saying? And so that's the unfortunate part of living in those areas, is that those are really desirable properties for developers, but they couldn't figure out how to get those people out of there without it being like a big scene, a big issue. So they were praying for a storm like this because it's leveling everything.
Yeah. And he got hit twice now. I mean, they got hit.
It could get hit again before
Yeah, because there's a.
It could get hit again before it's over with.
I'm trying to see where.
So nobody's come back to Barbuda yet because it's still it's still not safe, and there's nothing to come back to.
Yeah, it's inhabitable.
You see what I'm saying? Exactly. So by the time you figure out how to get back to your property or get back to, because especially a lot of these Caribbean islands, man, it's like a lot of the property is kind of not officially yours. It's just like you're just living on it.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying? And so you don't have like in America where you have these private property rights. Like, that's what we go on the cousins. A lot of places you got people living on shit.
Yeah. See, that's like Venezuela. Anything that was considered public property, you could just build there if you wanted to, and they did. Okay. So that's why you'll see you'll come up in the mountains that line. There's like a valley. There's mountains that go from La Guaira, where the airport is, the Caracas airport. It's a city called La Guaira. It's not actually in Caracas. There's no airport in Caracas. And you drive through the mountains into this valley, and you just see on both sides all the ranchos build on the sides as you get into Caracas. You come in from the north west side of the city. And the new law that they put in, I think 5 years ago, that basically the government said if you are not using your property, in a manner that is of your use. So if you're not using it, living it there, or you don't have tenants in it, and it's unoccupied, and people move in, you can't kick them out. You have to allow them to stay there. Yeah,
exactly.
You have to allow them to stay there because you're not using it, even if it's private property.
Yeah.
So there was tons of if there was empty stores, people would break into the store, and then they couldn't kick the people out because the store wasn't being rented out, or people would go into some house and they wouldn't leave the house because if they leave the house, they can lock up and they can't get back in. The law doesn't protect them there, but you can't physically remove them or legally have them removed. Yeah, they have to by will leave. So they'll have half the family stay and half the family go. People will intentionally not go to work because, they
want to make sure somebody's always there.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah. So you can see that same issue there, where you may have some of those islands have that same rule. If you what they consider, I don't know what the word is, where you leave something, desert your property. After so many days, it falls back to abandon it. After so many days, it falls back to some type of status where it can be seized by anybody. Mm-hmm. And so with those people having left it because of the storm, there's no telling how long it is. It may be 90 days, 60 days, whatever, but who can come? You can't. There's nothing to do in Barbuda right now. There's probably no water. There's no electricity, so there's nothing to come back to.
Yeah.
So you just got to just hang out where you're at. You know what I'm saying? And so by that, the government can just sit on their hands and not go in and try to repair anything, waiting for that time period to hit. So then, like I say, all the developers and the investors come in and buy up all the property. They play these type of games on people all the time, especially when you got really, really desired real estate.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
See how it goes, man.
Because a lot of even when I was there, a lot of people were leaving Puerto Rico because of economics, and there was a lot of foreclosing on houses. So the housing market. We talked about this a little over a year ago. How here I said within the next year or two, there's going to be a prime time to buy in Puerto Rico, buy real estate because the economic situation will reach its floor, because now they're going to have they got some sort of a relieving of the debt. But again, it takes years to catch up with that. So they're still being taxed to death. People aren't making money. The inflation doesn't go away just because the government is now going to get help. Inflation takes time to go away. Inflation has to happen. But also, they need more vessels delivering goods to the island. These things takes weeks and months. It took to give people an idea, I sent my belongings to and from Puerto Rico via ship, and they say it takes a minimum of 3 months. The first time it took 4.5 months for me to get my box of stuff. The second time it took a little longer than that, but it's because it was in Miami and they had to deliver it to my house from Miami. But it eventually got to my house. It took 5 months, but still, and it's not because it takes a long time to drive a ship from the port of Puerto Rico to the port of Miami or the port of Jacksonville. It's that once it gets there, it has to go through a whole bunch of different processes. The containers have to be removed, which takes days. Then they have to be checked. And then after it's checked, checked in, then the company has to come and get stuff out. Again, they're coming in panel vans. And we're talking something that's the size of what the semi-trailer that doesn't have wheels is what the containers are. So a semi-trailer, obviously that's way more stuff than fits in panel vans. So they have to make several trips, and they deliver it to your house. So they get panel vans and they're moving that stuff to where it needs to go. Again, they're not going through and picking out, this needs to go. They're not sorting it there. You can't sort it at the dock. You just got to take as much as you can and then come back. and take as much as you can and come back. So it takes a significant amount of time. So maybe it, and again, if the ship, like Puerto Rico was down to 2 ships, same one company, 2 ships, and then one of the ships sunk in a hurricane in 2015. It was where the people died, and that's the other part of it too. The demand for the need to ship things in and out of the country is such a high demand. There, for the island has a lot of rich natural resources that they could have utility to. They just don't. Like, they ship in the fruits on a tropical island from Dominican Republic. Why? Just grow them. It costs so much to import everything, like kale. All kale that was on the island came from here in the U.S. It came from Florida.
Yeah.
Like, you telling me that you can't figure out like a 2-story grow house? Like, do we need to send these weed connoisseurs down there and show them how to plant, like grow food inside? I don't know. It just seems like, I don't know. There's opportunity to utilize resources, and it just doesn't get utilized there. And that was, I know why I lived there. I had a lot of jokes and comments and things that irritated me, but I loved it there. I really did, for the aspect of, the nature, the beaches, the people. I mean, it was a little island of paradise. But what sucked, infrastructurally, it was terrible. They're behind times on technology. Simple things like going to the DMV to register your vehicle. It was like we had to go like 3 different times to do it. Because you have to be present with the person that sold you the vehicle if you sell it by owner, but by bank you don't have to. But we did it for sale by owner, so he had to be there to sign off certain paperwork. And then there was an issue because he had 3 toll violations, and we had to pay his toll violations before we could register it. And we're like, hey, no, that's his stuff. You charge him. But like, it goes with the car, not with him. I'm like, we just bought it from him. So, but no, we ended up, it was like $600 in tolls. They reduced to $300, which sucks. They were his tolls. But it's just simple stuff like that. Electricity is uber expensive. There's no air conditioning, a lot of different things like that were irritating, but you can live with.
How much was gas there?
It was like $1.16 a liter, which is like 2.2 liters per gallon. So it was like basically the same price it was here in the States, right around the same price, just a little higher, like 10 cents higher or something like that. It wasn't much more expensive, which was kind of cool. But I mean, it's by the liter, so it's, even then it was weird. Like all the car, like our car was miles per hour, but half the speed signs were in kilometers per hour. The other half was in miles per hour. Just depended on where you were. Most people didn't pay attention to that. I got pulled over once, and he was like, yeah, I was going to give you a bunch of tickets. And I was like, oh, okay. And you're not? Cool. He's like, did you know you were speeding? I was like, I wasn't aware of it, but I noticed a lot of other people were going really fast. I'm not really keen on kilometers per hour. My car is miles per hour. I don't calculate it well. My bad. I don't know what to tell you. Because tourists, they don't give the tickets to tourists because they don't show up to court. And there's nothing they can do. They can't extradite you to Puerto Rico. because it's not, and even in a state, they can't extradite you to another state to pay a fine. They have to wait till you come within the boundaries of a state. So it's pointless to write the ticket because there's nothing that's going to come of it. So they just don't write the ticket. But yeah, I'm looking at the Doppler radar right now, and it's and the eye is it's not quite there, but it's approaching, and it looks like where it's gonna hit is, unfortunately, it looks like it's gonna hit near one of the islands that are part of Puerto Rico, the west or on the east side of that island. They have two smaller islands. There's Vieques and Culebra.
Yeah, Vieques.
Vieques. Yeah, Vieques is a longer island. It's the bigger of the two. I went to both a couple times. Honestly, wonderful scuba diving or snorkeling, beaches is just pretty awesome. Like, a lot of people go to Fajardo for the weekend, or Vieques for the weekend. They'll just camp there for the weekend or for a week. There's no stores like real stores. There's like a couple of general stores. There's one gas station, you know, and you rent like 4-wheelers or golf carts to get around the island. So it's kind of cool, but I know a lot of that stuff that's there is kind of in the same thing that you see throughout the Caribbean on small islands. It's not highly structurally sound. You know, you don't. There's some resorts there, but I don't know if those resorts are built any stronger than a lot of apartment complexes here in Florida. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on an island, so getting supplies to the island is expensive. So, who knows how much was invested into it? But I don't know.
Well, hopefully they do all right, man. It's just, what you about to say?
I was say you're in Atlanta now, so you don't have to worry about hurricanes. You just have to worry about traffic.
No, not really. I mean, hurricane's not going to be an issue, especially at this altitude.
What?
It was 1,500 feet above sea level.
What's worse, like Charlie or Atlanta traffic?
You say Charlie? What do you mean?
Like Hurricane Charlie. I mean, because you were here for Hurricane Charlie. I mean, what was worse, dealing with Hurricane Charlie that ended up going up towards Orlando, or Atlanta traffic?
I say the traffic, because you got to deal with it on a regular basis. Charlie was, a one-time situation.
One and done.
It was a one and done. You got to deal with Atlanta traffic on the daily basis, because you got to go out in it on a daily basis to get around. So, but Charlie really, and like I said, is that you knew the hurricane was coming. One good thing about the technology we have now is that the stuff is coming way before it hits. So it's not like it just catches you by surprise.
Yeah.
You just have to be try to prepare for it as much as possible, and understand, like, a byproduct of living in Central Florida, South Florida, is that you're exposed to really, really extreme weather, in the form of rain. And it's just something you have to deal with as part of living in that area, but you're better off than somebody in, Haiti or Cuba, where you're going to have very little government response to a situation like that.
Yeah.
So if something happens, you just have to figure out how to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? So you're in a better situation than they are, because they're going to have little to no government. I can just imagine what happens in Cuba, because that last storm hit them hard. They don't have the resources to do anything about it. So that's the thing. And they get hit by every fucking hurricane. Every hurricane hits them. So you know they're
the 1AA school at the beginning of the season. That's what they are.
Yeah, I mean, but they get hit, and they begin hitting bottom every year because the only reason Cuba is even inhabited is because it was a great place to grow sugarcane. That was the only reason, you know, they brought such a large population to Cuba because it's a great place to grow sugarcane. But it's really not a good place to live because of the weather. Because they get every hurricane that goes through the Gulf passes right over Cuba on its way into the Gulf. You know, because they're right under Florida, so there's no.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.